Today I'm going to start part 1 of my server build. I'll begin with a review of the actual case that I will use, the Cooler Master Elite 130. Now there are many other YouTubers that have reviewed this case, but I'm going to look at it from a slightly different angle. So let me quickly just do a quick unboxing and we'll take it from there. Oops, upside down. Very sparse instructions that came along with this case, like a lot of cases do. I like to read all the instructions whenever I buy anything before I use it. So I can be a little bit nerdy in that way. I'll put this aside for now. It appears there are 3 of these standard case thumb screws holding the top cover in place. And it sort of pulls back a little bit and then up and out of the way. Now I'll be revisiting this in a few minutes because there are some modifications that I have planned for this particular case, and some of them will involve the top. Inside we have the standard packet of hardware. Let me take that out first. And this little bag here has the standard set of screws and standard tie wraps. A few extras. I have a lot of those, but more always helps. And then we have, I don't want to lose anything, put those aside. Now these are special mounts from what I read in the case instruction. So these particular little rubber inserts are for the hard drives. This particular case comes able to support 3 hard drives. As you will see though, when I do my server, I will be attempting to get it to use a few more than that. So it looks like the standoffs for the motherboard are not already installed. So I'm going to be doing an ITX motherboard on this, so it'll be just a 4. But they give you the standoffs. They're brass, unpainted. I don't mind that. You got the screws for SSDs. So it's got specialized screws, and again, it looks like those are meant to possibly work with these rubber adapters. And then it has others in here which I guess are for standard hard drives. And as you'll see, I may use some of these, but that's not going to be the main purpose of how I'm going to lay out the hard drives in this case. And then a standard set of screws. It does have what looks like a Phillips head adapter for certain types of screws. See which ones those apply to. It looks like the smaller ones. Probably won't rely on this, but interesting thing to add in there. Let me put all these back in except for the case screws. Go. Now, the case itself, pretty good. It has some nice black cables, which will make it a little bit easier to blend in with the background of the black matte painted interior of the case. Let me open this up. It looks like we have here dropped out an adapter. I guess it's for fans. Yeah, it's got a looks like a 3-pin fan connector. Both of these happen to be 3 pins, unfortunately. There's another one of these already on the 80mm fan, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then it has a standard set of adapters for the front panel, the USB 3.0 connector, the high definition audio connector, that's what that one is here, USB 2.0, and then the other standard case ones, power switch, reset switch, hard disk LED, and this one says the power LED. So it's got the standard set. And careful look at this. First of all, it has this 80 millimeter fan here. Now, I've already got plans to replace this with another 120. Unfortunately, it won't fit in this spot, and even if it did, the power supply would block most of it. So what I'm going to probably wind up doing in a few minutes, and I'll start testing out some pieces of metal that I pulled out of that case from the old PC that I did in a previous video, and we'll see which ones work best. I will also be, I've already purchased it, and you'll see it when I start the build. I purchased a special adapter that goes into this one 5 1/4 inch bay. And that adapter will allow me to put in both a hard drive at the bottom, a regular 3.5 inch hard drive, hard disk, and on top of that I'm going to put, believe it or not, a very thin laptop style DVD player that'll go on the top here. I know it's old-fashioned to still want those, but I find them handy at times when I'm trying to load certain things that I may run into issues online with, or if they're too big, if I want to back something up and I don't quite have the network working yet. Now this front panel looks like it pops off. Let me see, we're pushing these little tabs on the back here. There we go, on that side. And the whole thing pops out. It's got a nice little, very rough, it's not fine enough, front filter to it. So I may be changing, at least putting another filter on the inside of that. We'll see how that goes. Looks like there might be room. I'm going to be putting, by the way, an all-in-one water cooler in for my CPU to keep it cool, rather than try to fit into this little case a very large fan. I got an i5 processor, and it has some good clocking capability, so I don't want to hamper that. This fan is going to be replaced by PWM, pulse width modulation fan, 4-wire fan that the motherboard can more effectively control. It does have, this case, 2 USB 3.0 connectors up front and 1 USB 2.0 connector as well, in addition to the power and the reset switch. Pretty solid case. It's kind of hard to demonstrate that on a video here, but it looks like they put some solid construction into it. And it takes a full-size power supply. Don't have to. You can get an ITX style, I think it's called an STX power supply that would be a little bit smaller. It comes with a special bracket that allows it to adapt to a full-size holder like this. Notice how it sticks out the back, which is actually pretty interesting, because that way it gives you a little bit more room in there, and all you're sacrificing is space that you would waste otherwise, because the I/O shield and anything you plug into the I/O shield will stick out about that much as well. So it actually works out utilizing some space that you probably wouldn't have used for another purpose. What else do we have here? Looks like the 5 1/4 inch bay actually could be completely removed. It's screwed in. It has room for a lot of SSDs, more so than the hard disk. And again, it uses little rubber connectors where you actually put the connectors on the either 2.5 or 3.5 inch hard drive, and it pushes right down into these keyhole shaped cutouts inside the case. And there's some up here in the 5 1/4 inch. There is what looks like a special holder right at the bottom of the 5 1/4 inch bay if you wanted to put, has to be a 2.5 inch SSD or regular hard drive. Go regular hard drive that way if you'd like. And it has this side panel holder that, according to the instructions, can either hold a 120 millimeter fan, or it could actually hold a hard drive. Now I'm going to be using it for a hard drive. I will be removing these. As a matter of fact, let me get a screwdriver. Let me go ahead and remove these panels. It's got 2 screws here at the bottom. Now I will be taking this out obviously because it'll make it easier to put the other hard drive on here. These are plastic feet, by the way. They look like they're just spinning in place, so they're not going to provide a lot of vibration protection. That's a little disappointing on that. It would have been nice if they had made it so that they were rubber feet, especially with the number of hard drives I'm going to put in here. And then there's one screw, it looks like up at the top here. Yep, one screw at the top. Take that out. And this whole piece of metal here, looks like it comes right out. I really wish I could get another one of these. I'll show you in a few minutes. I would like to install it on the other side. I don't want to use this one for that purpose because I already got plans for it. So I'm going to have to try to fabricate something like this that's very similar. And you'll see it in a few minutes. Now this fan is going to come out for me because I don't want a 80mm fan in there making all the racket that they tend to do because they have to go a little bit faster to keep up with what they're trying to cool. It's not a PWM anyway. So this has 2 screws in the back holding that. And it's got what looks like 2 screws at the bottom. More screws holding this little thing in than holding that larger bracket. There you go. So that fan is going to probably not go back in there. I'm just going to leave it out for now. What I'll do is I'll put these screws back into it in case I want to use it for something else, or my fabricated components need similar screws. Nice black screws. And now it's completely opened up, as you can see here. You can see that I have full access to everything, and when I put my water cooler in here, it'll be a lot easier to deal with. And in terms of the power supply, it looks like this bracket, yeah it does, this bracket also removes too. It's got what looks like 4 screws. You can remove this, put in a power supply, and then that might make it a lot easier to put it back in. Because I'm assuming that it'd be probably better to keep it on the outside of the case. As I populate the case, the cable should be able to reach. I'm using semi-modular, which means that the connector to the main power connector to the motherboard, connector associated with that, are already on the power supply. The other connectors that you use for the SATA or for other peripherals, and the secondary 12 volts that goes up for the processor, they would then plug in separately. But you'll see that when I do the build. I think that's a pretty good for a quick review of this case. Like I said, it's a sturdy case. I am hoping that able to properly manage the cables in here. It's going to be a challenge. I saw others do builds and cases, this particular one and one similar to this, and it seems to always be quite a bit of a challenge. I will not be putting a video card. I'll be using the video off of the motherboard since it will be a server. But I will be making some brackets. Now I have the metal that I salvaged from the old computer. What I want to do is see what I can use to modify the interior of this case to support a 4th hard drive, because it only has room for 3. These are the 3.5-inch hard drives, and they would normally go, if I fully populated just the way it was designed, there'd be one inside the 5.25-inch bay. There'd be one on the side bracket, this one here, and then it would just attach here as it was before. And then there would be a 3rd one at the bottom of the case in front of this fan, or in my case it'll be a water cooling radiator and fan combination. So what I want to do is get a 4th one in here. This is a part, I think I pointed it out during my salvage operation, that I really wanted to get out of that case. I was hoping it was in there. It was. I may have to trim off some of the metal. Definitely we'll have to drill a couple of extra holes in it. But what I'm going to do is place this right at the bottom where that one hard drive would go, underneath this 5¼ inch bay, but farther enough away from the radiator and fan for the all-in-one cooler that I can secure it to the base. And if I can, I'll try to use some of those rubber feet so it has some anti-vibration. But this thing here in that position would then have two 3½-inch hard drives installed in it. Looks like it can handle actually 3, but I want to give them some air room in there, so I'm going to spread them out a little bit, even if I have to drill a couple of more holes on the side. The bigger challenge, what do I do about this? I want something similar to this on the other side. Now, if I was able to have found one of these, and I tried reaching out to Cooler Master, nobody seemed to be able to tell me where to go to find one that I could purchase. And this is a shame too, because I know a lot of people, from what I saw online, they actually got rid of this. They left it completely out just to give themselves some more room. They didn't need this to either hold another fan or to hold a hard drive, so they just left it out. So in my next video, I'm going to start fabricating something. I've got 3 pieces to work with here. I've got these 2 interior pieces of metal that came out of that case, and I have the top of that old case that I could actually take, and it's pretty much well, call it a green field, but it's a white field that I could pretty much do whatever I want with. If I can get this has already got a nice base top and bottom, so this is a possibility. Either one of these actually could be. But if I put this so that I can push it down in the bottom like so, obviously cut out the parts that are needed from this, be able to get my 120mm fan, then it might sit pretty well right there. It's nice solid. I can obviously screw it in from the bottom there, and at the same time I could screw to the top bar here. I purchased this fan from Newegg. It was recommended by a woman named Catherine Anna Hauserman. She participates in the live cast that Carrie Holtzman does. I've learned a lot from Carrie, and I do appreciate all that I've learned from him. And Catherine, in exchanging messages with her through the chat, suggested that I purchase a fan that is ultra thin, as you can see. This particular one, I believe, let's see, 13mm wide. So it's obviously it's a full 120. It is, by the way, for those who are interested, it is LED and has a beautiful coloring pattern to it, as you can see here. And it comes in different colors. I brought the black, and this is meant to go here on the side of my case. And that way, by having one that small, I should be able to get it in here. I'll have to eliminate that tab that's there on this piece of holder if I use that one, as opposed to possibly using this one. That's another alternative, although I don't like the fact that this has those little side tabs to it. So even though it might be easier to work with because it's more of a clean slate, that's something I'd have to deal with. It might be easy for me just to get rid of this tab here and a couple of these other ones, because I'm going to cut out most of that anyway in order to make this have its full airflow through here. I'm going to just cut a giant circle in it, and then I could take this, put it up here. I could leave these top parts exactly the same. I don't have to get rid of that U in here at all, because I don't need to secure it here and here. And I should get this fan to fit right in there. It will be hopefully on the outside of it. I may have to turn this around the other way then. I'll have to see which way that goes, and then I'll have to cut notches up in here in order for it to fit across this support bar. But it looks doable. I think this is the one that I want to do it with. I guess the only thing I can do is cut it and find out how it works. And then, of course, what's going to happen with the outer case here, I may have to cut a few more holes up at the tar part of it. But as I didn't explain it already, but what I'm trying to do is the power supply is going to eat most of this up all the way back to about this bar. So in order for me to get the fan extra cooling that I want, I'm going to have to put this forward quite a bit. And I want to make it sort of share between the chipset and other chips on the motherboard itself, and also supply general case airflow. And I'd like to have the air become blowing into the case, and then it will exhaust out the other end. And I will put filters on all intakes. So on the outside of that outer case, I will put a filter. That's my plan. I guess the next step I'll have to do is cut that and see how it works. I think that's about it. The next step is to start modifying this stuff while I have it out. And that way when I start to build, you'll be able to see how it all fits together. If you see any videos here that help you or that you like, do me a favor and subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost anything. Thank you.